What happened back there?
I don't care.
Hey, I've got an idea. Let's rock talk.
Alright, you all know why I'm here. It's time for some MTG Rock Talk, and this is probably the most necessary one that we've done so far. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way, and then we'll get into the meat of what's wrong here. So let's look at Historic. Agent of Treachery is banned from Suspended. Winota, Joiner of Forces is banned from Suspended. Fires of Invention is banned from Suspended. So what does this mean? This means that Wizards of the Coast realizes there's no way that they can unsuspend these cards and put them back in the format. So since they're going to stay there, they have to give out the wild cards for them. That's what it really amounts to. So Suspended is just their way of banning a card without having to give you wild cards back for it, in the hopes that if they can take it off the suspension list, then they can remove it from the format for a while without having to, credit anybody for that. But these three cards, they decide, you know what, there's just no way, we're going to have to do it, so they're banned forever. And then we have Nexus of Fate, which did not even get suspended, it just got straight banned. So that's perfectly fine in my eyes, I'm not going to cry over that. And Burning Tree Emissary is suspended, so that's interesting. Let's read a little bit about this. So, yep, they have suspended these three cards that we just talked about. They've been carefully watching how the changes have affected the historic meta, and our data is showing it to distinct improvements with those cards removed. So each of these cards are also cards that will get more problematic as the format grows in breadth and power. Yes, that is true. Because this gets really, really stupid with Blank and Ramp. This gets ridiculously stupid the more humans and non-humans they make to combo with it. And Fires of Invention is another card that will get really stupid as they make more powerful multicolored spells that you can cast with it for free. So, absolutely correct. It was totally justified to remove those. Because we feel the data shows a positive impact, and because it's unlikely to be safe to reintroduce them, they are banned from Historic, and they will be given out wild cards as per the normal policy. Yeah. So, through these suspensions, now bans improve the metagame. The top end of Historic is still becoming too constricted shortly after the suspension of Winota. Top two deck comprised roughly 15% of best of 3 play, showing a healthy, diverse spread of decks. Now the top two decks are roughly 35%, and the rate of concentration is increasing. Well, that probably has to do with the fact that a lot of people are looking to Historic as the healthiest format at the moment, because it's the least broken. But it turns out when you put more strain on a format, then more people are going to figure out the best way to break that format. So I think kind of like how Pioneer was, in its early stages, Historic was kind of like that for a while, and the more attention the format's going to get, the more people are going to figure out what the best decks are, and they're going to gravitate towards them. So, over the last month, decks using Nexus of Fate have risen dramatically in terms of metagame share, and it's now Historic's most played deck. Shocking. The two main cards enabling this deck are Wilderness Reclamation, which is basically just a green version of Fires of Invention, and Nexus of Fate itself. While Wilderness Reclamation is a powerful card, we're not seeing it appear in problematic decks in Historic aside from this one. Well, not right now, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that for the same reasons that Fires of Invention is dumb, this is also going to be a problem in the future, so I think maybe this is a card you should consider getting rid of, but certainly Nexus of Fate is a card that absolutely you should get rid of. This is just both of these together are absolutely a problem, but Nexus, I am not sad whatsoever to see this go. I do think maybe at some point in the future something else will break with Wilderness Reclamation, but maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we are. Maybe we'll find it. So, yeah. This deck also runs multiple ways to accelerate to early casts of Nexus of Fate. Well, it turns out when your deck is full of ramp spells that draw a card, it makes it really easy to keep looping that. You have stuff like Growth Spiral and Uro and Arboreal Grazer that just keep putting lands in play, until you get to 7 mana on turn 4. Then yeah, it's pretty easy to do it. Finally, Wilderness Reclamation acts primarily to give players access to a wider array of lines of play. Okay, while Nexus of Fate prevents the opponent from playing at all. Huh! Interesting. Is there any other card that we can think of in Historic, or even any other format at all, that might just serve primarily to keep the opponent from playing at all? Maybe Teferi Time Raveler? Just saying. Why is that not a consideration? I don't think anybody enjoys that card. In fact, I'm pretty sure people dislike that more than Nexus of Fate. And I'm also pretty sure that like you could jam Teferi in this deck for exactly that reason, as another way to prevent them from playing the game. But I don't know, that's just me. So, Nexus of Fate is a card they've been watching closely for a long time in Historic. While it's very powerful, we had hoped in traditional Historic it would be a place where it could remain and a balanced option for its fans. Well, it's held true for a long time. Questionable. With the deck showing strong but within bound play and win rates, it has now risen to a level where it's starving out other options and warping the format around itself. Yeah, you know what? They're just taught. Yeah, the Nexus of Fate has to go. That's it. All right, we'll read this last one here. It will only grow in Historic as the card pool expands, and like them, we don't feel that it is likely that the meta will soon reach a place where sufficient answers exist to make this deck a balanced, fun option for players. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe, you shouldn't be putting overpowered cards in these formats, but at least they have the decency to remove it, so. While we have generally acted to suspend cards in Historic to test the impact, this is not a hard rule. Because we do not foresee a good opportunity to safely reintroduce it to the format soon, then expand in Historic. That's fine. Yeah, they're just... Suspension, like they can put cards where they feel like maybe there's some remote chance in hell that they might want to unban it, but it seems like for Historic, the ban list is more like a permanent ban list, so yeah, Nexus I would not expect to ever come off of that list. But this is the more interesting part, because now the other deck that's long been a powerhouse in Historic is Gruul Aggro. While it's often been the most played deck, the separation between it and the other decks has widened significantly in the last month. It probably has something to do with Burning Tree Emissary, Bone Crusher Giant, and Stomp being ridiculously good in that deck. Gruul and Nexus are now each played more than 3 times as much as their closest competition at Best of 3, and Gruul has one of the highest win rates in both Best of 3 and Best of 1. Again, I can tell you that's almost entirely because of Embercleave, but here's the thing. Embercleave is a standard mythic card, and they don't want to ban standard mythics if they can help it. So, but on the other hand, Burning Tree Emissary I'm not going to say Burning Tree is not a problem card in that deck. One of the things that enables them to Embercleave very quickly is casting multiple Burning Trees in turn 2, and then following up with like something like Stomp, so they can go, an Elf in turn 1, Burning Tree, Stomp, and then like turn 3, you're just getting crushed by Embercleave. So that is definitely a thing that we need to consider. So yeah, ban Burning Tree. Now on turn 2, they actually have to consider, do I play a creature or do I play a removal spell? Because you don't get to do both now. And you definitely don't get to put multiple creatures out in turn 2, which reduces the cost of Embercleave when they attack with it. So it makes it's slower to deploy it. I think it still has a very good chance of being a problem, but Burning Tree is definitely going to hurt this deck a lot. I feel like that's... If you were going to pick one card from that deck, this is definitely one of the 2 that I would have considered. And I understand why they picked this one over Embercleave. Maybe this is the better one to ban. I could be. We'll have to see how it turns out, but... Alright. Yeah. Well, no, they're just acknowledging this. Unlike Nexus of Fate, we do see a strong possibility that Historic meta could shift away, in a way that allows Burning Tree to find a balanced, fun home. However, as the meta stands today, the power it brings to Gruul Aggro is overall reducing the number of balanced, interesting, and varied deck options in the format. For this reason, it's suspended. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I have a strong suspicion that it's not... Like, Gruul is still going to be a very strong deck, and I don't feel like putting Burning Tree back into it is going to make anything more fun in this format. So My expectation would be that Burning Tree is probably going to end up getting banned instead of unsuspended, but it's something we'll find out. On final note of historic suspensions, when they first introduced the mechanism in December, they emphasized the limited time nature of suspension by linking it to the, so they're talking about how ranked historic. We have ranked historic now, so they're saying is now it's gonna be within a 2 to 3 month span, but since there's no ranked historic to tie it directly to anymore because it's not in seasons now, they just are saying, well, we're going to keep the time frame the same even though that it's not tied to a specific format. So I think that's fine. It just means that we'll be revisiting Burning Tree in about 2 to 3 months from now. So around the time when Zendikar Rising comes out, then they're going to make a decision on this. So, Historic, I think this is going to actually improve Historic by a fair bit. I'm not sad to see Nexus go, and like I said, Gruul probably needed to get hit with something. You could have either picked Burning Tree or Embercleave. I think the card that pisses me off more is Embercleave, but certainly Burning Tree also contributes heavily towards that. So, I don't know. Maybe without Burning Tree, in the busted hands where they go like double or triple Burning Tree on turn 2, maybe it'll be more fair. That's possible. It'll definitely slow it down, and it'll also mean that they can't put out like 3 creatures in turn 2 and use a removal spell on you. So, that's fine. We're gonna skip Pioneer for right now because I think we know why we're skipping that for right now. Let's talk about Pauper next. Expedition map is banned. Mystic Sanctuary is banned. So, with last year's bans of Gush, Gitaxian Probe, and Daze and Pauper, noted potentially a concern with the weakening of blue tempo decks that could create a rise in the popularity of Tron. While we didn't immediately see a metagame shift in that direction, Tron decks have remained popular and sometimes near 25% of the field on the MTGO tournaments. Interesting. This trend in combination with community feedback... Oh wait, when the hell did community feedback become part of how we determine bans? Huh. Let's keep that in mind. Has prompted us to take a look at the role of Tron decks in the Pauper metagame. While this can be a good thing for metagame diversity, we're seeing some negative effects in terms of repetitive gameplay. Alright, look, I can sum this up in 3 words. Wow, fuck Tron. Alright? That's it. That's all we have to say about it. Nobody likes you, Tron, and definitely not in fucking Pauper, or any other format for that matter, but Tron has long been like one of the dominant decks in Pauper because it turns out making 7 mana on turn 3 is good in literally every format. If you can do that and you're not going to get punished for it, then you should absolutely do it. The only reason that it doesn't really happen that much in Legacy is because Legacy has historically had better hate for non-basic lands in the form of things like Rishadan Port and Wasteland and even Back to Basics. So, and now Blood Moon, of course, is still a thing. So it's harder for, those kind of strategies to really take off. You have stuff like Cloud Post, we don't really have Metalworker anymore, but like that still used to be a thing. Even now, though, there still are like Eldrazi decks that basically do the same thing. They don't need to play Tron in that format because they have like actual soul lands, but it's still it's better though, and they don't dominate as much because, like I said, there are better answers to it. In Modern, it's like the hate against it is a lot weaker. You're looking at stuff like Ghost Quarter, Tectonic Edge, and Field of Ruin, which are much worse than like Wasteland is, for instance, and they don't have stuff like Back to Basics or Port to like really keep it in check. But in general, though, like it's been okay in Modern. Like Tron has always kind of been near the top of the format, but usually there's been at least 1 or 2 decks that like keep it from going completely insane. It's established itself as one of the pillars of that format, and maybe that means it dodges scrutiny a little bit more than it should, but it's fine-ish there. The problem is, in Pauper, there is very little that you can do to fuck with Tron. Like, there are like 3 mana land destruction spells that maybe you can cast 1, but Tron, like in Pauper, is just a beast. It can do a whole bunch of ridiculously stupid things, and you can play basically whatever color version of Tron that you want to. Like, you know, there's lots of blue versions of Tron that have like mole drifters and shit, and they can use like ghostly flicker just to blink it, and or you can play like with fireballs, or like the green splash always has you. Or you get options like Fan Green Marauder, which just, you know, you crack your expedition or what crack your like chromatic spheres or whatever. Just gain like a bajillion life and have like, you know, big fat creatures in play. Like, Tron has no lack of things to do in Pauper with like a bajillion mana that basically goes unchallenged for most of the game. So, yeah, and they still have stuff like Expedition Map and Ancient Stirring. So, like, yeah, it's totally reasonable to ban something out of this deck. And they're not outright banning Tron here, but they are going to ban Expedition Map in order to reduce the consistency of it. So Tron can still exist. Like I said, it still has stuff like Ancient Stirrings, like, but it's probably not going to be nearly as good without Map. Expedition Map was a huge part of this. It was reprinted as an uncommon, but it was originally a common, so it's a huge part of that deck. And losing Map is going to hurt it a lot. So I will not shed any tears because wow, fuck Tron. But this is the other one here is also really interesting, and I agree with this a lot. Multiple archetypes have recently adopted Mystic Sanctuary as another means of creating a repetitive loop or lockout states. While decks often only play a couple copies of this, it's proving to be another key contributor of negative pressure by enabling an endgame loops, and it's going to continue causing problems down the road, so they're also going to ban it. So, yeah, so here's the thing. Mystic Sanctuary is a ridiculously a big pain in the ass with things like Deprive and Tragic Lesson. Tragic Lesson lets them keep bouncing Sanctuary back to their hand so that the blue decks can just keep repeating that to draw more cards every turn. So you pay 3 mana and bounce the Sanctuary back, draw 2 cards, then play Sanctuary, get your Tragic Lesson back, and basically you just grind out card advantage against any opponent that way. Or you can also use Deprive as a counter spell that you can continually rebuy every turn in order to just lock your opponent out that way. So once you get a little ahead, you end up staying ahead for the rest of the game, and then just, yeah, it's hard. So, and I gotta say, Mystic Sanctuary is not a card that I'm ever displeased to hear that bad things are happening to. This is another one of those fire design cards that, like, you think about all of, like, the broken shit that they printed in the last year, you're like, wow, Hogak and Oko, and, like, and then you're like, oh, yeah, Mystic Sanctuary, yeah, wow, that's that's one of them. It still does, like, degenerate things in Modern and Legacy, you know. It's really good with stuff like Terminus, or even just putting, like, Supreme Verdict back on top of your deck. Like, and the problem in, like, Modern and Legacy, it's fetchable. It is an island that you can get with, like, Flooded Strand. So, and until recently, yeah, it was really, really easy to enable this by playing a bunch of basic snow islands in your deck, along with, like, Astrolabe and then Mystic Sanctuary. And, like, yeah, of course, you can just easily have enough islands in turn 4 to keep doing this. So, yeah, and it, like I said, it creates some problems. And in Pauper, like, they don't, again, without, like, good ways to hate out the lands, like, you're not gonna deal with this really. Like, it's repetitive and annoying, and I'm happy to see this go. There was a very reasonable chance this could have been banned in 2 formats today, but we'll take 1. 1 is better than 0. Alright. Alright, Modern. Arkham's Astrolabe is banned. Where is Modern here? Here we go. Over the past several months of Modern's metagame, we've seen a rise in popularity in the win rates of decks using Arkham's Astrolabe, with some variants approaching 55% non-mirror match win rates. That 55% number is something I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but take note of that too. While these decks have taken on several different forms, their common game plan is using Arkham's Astrolabe to play powerful cards across several colors. As a result, Arkham's Astrolabe has become one of the most played cards in Modern. While there's nothing intrinsically bad about multicolored good stuff having a place in the metagame, their power and flexibility is usually counterbalanced by making concessions in their mana bases, often through the lands that enter the battlefield tap, cost life, or involve some other kind of deck building restriction. Astrolabe makes this trade-off come at too low of a cost, as one Astrolabe can often mean excellent mana for the rest of the game without costing a card. In addition, it leads to some other synergy by virtue of being a cheap artifact permanent, and it can be blinked or recurred for card advantage. In short, Arkham's Astrolabe adds too much to these decks for too little cost, resulting in win rates that are unhealthy and unsustainable for the metagame. Therefore, it's banned in Modern. So, what they mean by this is that normally, if you want to have like a 5-color mana base, you should be vulnerable to something like Blood Moon or Field of Ruin or some nonsense like that, okay? You can't just play 5 colors for free with basics that can't be disrupted by anything. And Astrolabe was making that happen. And on top of that, Astrolabe was double a problem because of shit like Teferi and Yorion, which let you redeploy the Astrolabe to continue gaining card advantage with it in the later stage of the game. So not only does it not cost you a card and make your mana basically invulnerable to everything, but it keeps getting recycled for card advantage. So and even stuff like Urza is able to use the Astrolabe itself to tap for a fucking mana. So yeah, it does way, way too much. So now this is the second format this card has been banned in. It was already banned in Pauper, and now it is banned in Modern. So a good question is, why is it not banned in Legacy? Well, here, they're addressing it here. So we're keeping an eye on Arkham's Astrolabe in Legacy for similar reasons. Although at the present, the play rates and win rates of Arkham's Astrolabe don't warrant actions. We are aware of concerns within the Legacy community on this point, but we want to be consistent with our philosophy of only resorting to bans when a card or deck reaches problematic win rates that can't be solved by natural metagame forces. Bullshit! They have banned cards for many other reasons besides just win rates, okay? Win rate is not the only reasons that cards should or could be, can or should be banned. Case in point, Splinter Twin. We didn't ban Splinter Twin because it had a problematic win rate. We banned it because of things like metagame diversity. There are other reasons to ban cards, like Battle of the Sideboards. That's one that people have mentioned before. Or even stuff like Oko, where Oko is just a problem because it gets splashed into every single deck. So even though the card itself is not necessarily breaking the metagame, the fact that it leads to unfun play lines for a lot of people, and that it's so prolific, that's also a reason to ban a card. Let's not fucking pretend that win rate is the only reason to ban a card, okay? And you know what? Arkham's Astrolabe actually has one reason they did not acknowledge that it should be banned. It's yet another reason that you should be playing snow basics in any format where snow cards are a thing. And Astrolabe is only one of actually 2 cards that this is a problem with. The other one is Icefang Coatl. The problem is, when Astrolabe is legal and you are playing a non-snow land in your deck, you have just told your opponent, I am not playing Arkham's Astrolabe in my deck. Because there is no reason to not play a snow land in your deck, alright? Even if you're not going to use Astrolabe, you should at least play a snow land and make your opponent think that you might be playing it. Because it might cause them to play differently. If you're giving them free information every time that you play a regular non-snow basic. So the same thing is also true with Icefang Coatl, and we have to hope and pray that Icefang does not see any significant play after this, because if you're playing regular islands or regular forests, your opponent's going to know that you're not a snow deck. The same thing, if you're playing regular swamps, they're going to know you don't have Dead of Winter in your deck. If you're playing regular mountains, they're going to know, oh, well, I guess they don't have Skred in their deck. The snowlands are a fucking mistake, and they need to go away, because the snowlands have banned all of basic lands, alright? Any non-snow basic is not, you should not be playing it in your deck. And sometimes stuff will come up that you might not even anticipate. I've had this experience where I played you might even remember if you've seen me play on this channel. I played Merfolk in Legacy with Phantasmal Image, and you know what happened? I needed to copy an Icefang Coatl, and guess what? I didn't have snow basics in play, so I didn't get the extra effect from the Ice Fang because I copied it with image. So you know what? Even if I'm not playing that shit in my deck, I should have them anyway, just in case there's a reason that, you know, maybe somehow I end up controlling Ice Fang Coatl. So if I don't have Snowlands, well, that sucks. It's just the whole idea of snow mana is just a huge fucking problem when there's no way to punish people for doing it. And as long as this is the case, they've basically banned all non-snow basics from all competitive gameplay in formats where snow is a thing. So banning Astrolabe is certainly a good way to go about starting to fix this problem, but we really sincerely have to hope that there are like that stuff like Dead of Winter and Ice Fang Coatl are not going to see any significant play, because if they do, then this problem's still going to persist. So in addition to all the other problems that Astrolabe has, not being able to play with like the fucking hundreds of different other kinds of basic land art, that just sucks. Like, people have like these fantastic like Guru foils or Judge promo foils or like full art Zendikar lands or unhinged lands, and you know what? If you're playing them, you're actively tanking your own fucking win percentage because you're playing them. So snow needs to go, and Astrolabe is a snow card, so fuck it, get rid of it. Either ban the Snowlands or ban the fucking like all of the relevant snow cards, or you have to make some sort of really easily main deckable card that like severely hates on Snowlands, so that there's a significant penalty to discourage you from playing Snowlands unless you absolutely need them for your strategy. So yeah, alright, that's all I have to say about Modern. So let's go and find out how Pioneer fared in this, because Pioneer is the format that everybody wanted to see what was going to happen. So let's see. I'm sure that, you know, they probably did a lot to fix this format. The format was struggling for a while, you know, and a lot of people were upset about it. So let's see. What did they do with Pioneer? Oath of Nissa is unbanned. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Let me just make sure I got this here. Okay. Oath of Nissa is unbanned. Well, where are the bans? Where are they? I don't see them. Or maybe they're down a little bit further. Okay, no. Let's look. Maybe they're hiding them down here. Since the launch of Pioneer late last year, we've seen significant changes in the metagame. Early in Pioneer's launch window, various green ramp decks were among the most popular and successful archetype. In order to reduce the consistency of these, Oath of Nissa was added to the banned list early in the progression of Pioneer. Since that time, other cards used by green ramp decks have been banned, including Once Upon a Time, Veil of Summer, and Oko Thief of Crowns. Yes, all good bans. In addition, the release of new sets have added power to other archetypes and generally expanded possibilities for deck building. The metagame is now in a place where we feel unbanning Oath of Nissa is a reasonable step to take as far as adding some power back to Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx ramp decks, and other archetypes that revolve around key creatures, lands, or planeswalkers. Okay, that's kind of weird. I don't know why we needed to pick now all of a sudden to help the green ramp decks, but we are otherwise generally happy with the shape of the metagame in Pioneer. Okay. Nope. No. I must have misread that, because I thought it just said, we are otherwise generally happy with the shape of the metagame in Pioneer. What fucking metagame? There is no metagame in Pioneer. You know why? You want to see why? Here, look. Let's look at this. So, M21 Week 1, there were 10 events scheduled. There were 8 preliminaries and 2 challenges. How many of them actually got the bare minimum number of people in order to play those events? 3! 3 out of 10. They got a fucking 30% fire rate on their first week of M21 Pioneer events. What about last week? Well, there were 10 more events last week. You want to guess how many of those fired? 0! 0 of those fucking events fired! There is no Pioneer metagame because people are not playing the fucking format. What are they thinking? There's... Why? How? There were so many things you could have done. You could have banned Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise. You could have banned, like, Oracle. You could have banned fucking Thespian Stage, or just gone for the head, banned Inverter, or Breach, or fucking Ballista. No, we did nothing. We have not banned anything. We are happy with this. Pioneer is not firing any of its events now, and we are happy with the state of Pioneer. What in the absolute fuck is wrong with them? You want to know something else? Here somebody thought to put together a poll about how do you feel about the state of Pioneer after the banned and restricted announcement for it. Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. Fuck. Can I find this here? I want to see the results of this poll. They're not going to let me do this, are they? Because I have to actually sign into this. Okay, let's find out. Alright, view poll. Huh! So here is the middle line for this. There are 701 votes, and it looks like there's not even a full 100 of these 701 votes that actually like the announcement. So you're telling me that, like, what is it, 6/7 of the fucking people that voted in this either hate it or dislike it? Well, I wonder why the events haven't been firing. Clearly, whatever it was that Wizards of the Coast is thinking that, people want for this format, it's not working because they're not showing up to play. I played a league yesterday. There were less than 200 active players in the Pioneer League. That is like the lowest I've seen. I think fucking Vintage had more I'm sure Vintage actually had a fucking challenge last week. Like, if I looked right now and like Vintage preliminary, I am willing to bet that somebody there are results for this. Fuck, like, let's pick, I don't know, the last month. Can I find this here? Oh, what do you know? MTGO standings. Vintage preliminary from the last week. Vintage had more fucking challenges and preliminaries fire than Pioneer did last week. The format that, it's just, I don't have words for this. Pioneer was the fucking, the Wizards of the Coast baby. They created this format from scratch. They aggressively banned cards for, like, months. They wanted this to be the new thing, so this could be, like, Arena's version of Modern. That eventually this would be what goes on Arena. They're developing a Pioneer Master set. They are trying, or at least it looked like they were trying to generate interest in this. So then, what the fuck is this? How do you justify this and then say, we are otherwise generally happy with the shape of the metagame in Pioneer? You can't possibly be happy with that. There's nothing to be happy about. You'd have to have at least an event to be happy about it. If people are just so fucking fed up with this that they're not playing the format, how can you possibly say that's a good thing? So, we are keeping an eye on the populations of combo decks in the environment. Although the perception is that combo decks have dominant win rates isn't backed up by Magic Online play data. What play data? There's no fucking event data from it because people have just stopped playing it. You gonna go by, like, leagues? Well, there's barely any of those either. Because, again, the people who fucking play these are just so frustrated that they've stopped playing entirely. Why? they're so focused on this 55% win rate number that they're missing the most important part of the game, is that people need to actually be playing the goddamn game. If nobody's playing the game, there's no point to having the format. They have literally just nuked the format into oblivion. Like, this is the single closest that any format has ever come in the history of Magic to just being outright dead. I don't think in the history of Magic there has ever been a format where they have failed to fire one competitive event for it in the span of like a week. Out of the last 20 events, they fired 3 of them. What else can I possibly say? We've saw the polling data where like the vast majority of people are pissed off about this. Who are you catering to? Why do you think this is okay? I don't understand. There were like I said, there were so many things you could have done. Like, you could have done at least a light touch. Just try to, like, bring, just ban some cards, like Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise. Like, if you're going to do very little, at least that would have been better than nothing. But no. Not only do we do nothing, the solution to our problem is that we're going to unban fucking Oath of Nisa. That's going to be what brings Pioneer players back, right? It's not the fact that Pioneer is still, like, 40 to 50% of the format is dominated by combo decks in the form of Inverter of Truth, the fucking Lotus Breach deck, and the mono white Heliod Ballista combo. Nope, it's not that. It's that definitely the Oath of Nisa is what people were missing, and they couldn't live without their green ramp decks, and that was the thing that was driving them away from this format. Wizards of the Coast is not responsible enough to be maintaining ban lists for these formats. Anyone who thinks that this is an acceptable outcome for Pioneer today, they have no idea what they're talking about. And I expect that Wizards should know something about the game. They created Pioneer and then just shot it in the head for no reason. Why? You're trying to implement it into Arena. You spent so much time and money doing this. You're releasing a fucking Pioneer Master Set. And for what? Nobody's going to want to play it when it gets there. You've ensured that nobody wants to play it. So what possible motivation could there be for this? I don't know. I don't have an explanation for this. Are they doing this maliciously to try to kill it on purpose, or is there some other, just, is it incompetence? I don't understand. I can't fathom why anyone would have allowed this announcement to go through like this. Like, the win rates are fucking irrelevant. The most relevant thing, and the only relevant thing, is that nobody wants to play the format, and we have the data to prove that. And to ignore that is just, it is beyond irresponsible. So I don't have words for that. I'm just beyond infuriated by it, and I know a lot of other people are too. And you know what? You should be upset. This is Wizards of the Coast turning their backs on Pioneer. There was an opportunity for this to be a very excellent format that's really fun to play for everybody, and instead they turned around and just flipped it off and walked away like there's not a fucking problem in the world with it. Just wonderful. I don't have anything else to say today. That's all I can really say for right now, because if I continue talking about this anymore, I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm. This was the single worst banned and restricted announcement I've read to date. No format has ever, like, no format in recent memory has ever needed a ban more than Pioneer does. Like, I mean, even the worst, like, standards I can imagine, there were still people playing standard, but Pioneer can't fire a fucking event. They can't find 32 people who are willing to play in a fucking 5-round event. What does that say about the format? Does that scream that it's healthy and that you should be happy about it? Because I don't think it does. I don't think anyone else thinks it does, but wow. Fucking wow. Alright. yeah, we're done with this for today. So I have some Pioneer gameplay coming out this week. So you may have already seen the one for today. At least it should be interesting to watch, but the format just I have no faith left in it. Like, are we gonna get like some kind of emergency ban announcement? Are we gonna see a repeat of Felidar Guardian? I didn't even talk about that. Like, how the hell is Felidar Guardian still banned if things like, you know, what we have now are considered acceptable? Guardian's like way fucking less damaging to the format than any of these things are. Where's the consistency? Where is the vision? Where is the plan? Where's the plan for Modern? We were told months ago that they would revise the rules of Modern and tell us, you know, well, Modern used to be a turn 4 format. And maybe, you know, that's not true anymore because now we have decks like Neoform that can kill you on turn 1. So what are the ban criteria for Modern? Why have we not seen them? Where is Aaron Forsyth, like, with this information? How can they continue banning cards from Modern without having a fucking standard to go by? What is their vision for these formats? I want to know, what is their vision for Magic in general? Because a lot of these cards we just keep seeing them getting banned over and over again, and there's no end to it. And there can't be an end to it. But this isn't a sustainable path to go forward. Not for Modern not having these rules, not for Pioneer not having these rules, and definitely not for existing the way it is now. So I'm interested to know what you guys have to say about it. You know what? If you wanna vent in the comments, I would be happy to hear it. You know, if you think that I'm wrong, please, by all means, enlighten me. Why do you think that this would be okay? Or if you don't, then yeah, scream it from the rooftops. Let Wizards know that if you don't think this is okay, they need to hear this. Because, yeah, this can't go on like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I'll see you again next time.
Yeah, that was good rock talk.